Peace. Good morning. I don't have anything really ready to go, other than I thought it'd be cool just to give a quick little synopsis of everything. Only that we've learned so much in such a short period of time, and I thought it'd be cool that we could, kind of put everything together real fast in some way. Like we found out. Um, we know that we are in a vow of separation with the Lord. We also have found that we are in a Nazarene type of setup where we're allowed to grow our hair for a really long time, and then when it comes time to ante up and stand before the Lord, that's when we get our hair cut. And of course, these are conversations that are uh, hidden to you, because that means your end of times, your end of day is going to be one of these days, one of these lives, and it's going to culminate in you having to know something about religion. All right, it's very interesting how our world is operated, and we can't get away from God even if we try. So all it really does is draws us closer to this God, is what happens. So when we get caught up on the letter is meant to take us away, to stray, to make us astray, make us be trespassers against the Lord, and make him out to do things and be things that he alone can't do. But we'll find out that when we're just following around with the Father, we're just really half-minded human beings. And we also learn about our way of marriage through the Kundalini, or through the process of what we call following Christ, is this idea that we join mother and father together in this wedding bliss of coupling the both sides of our mind together to create one. And so we would then have the Father, which would be the outsides of us, our Son, which is going to be the inside of us, and our Mother, which would be the right side of our boat, the right side of our hemisphere. And it comes together as one. This is what monotheism is. So we learned this as well. Otherwise, you're not. You're missing some part of Elohim. You're missing the female part. And that's the whole point of going inside and finding this heaven and hooking up with her. All right. And we found out that the religious side of our world, the outside mankind, is directly related to the left side of our brain. It's born of the carnal mind, making it a male conscious. So this is our homosexual text in the Bible, that if you're going to opt out to this stranger in the midst, go ahead, you adulterous fools. That's the way it works. And you got to have it. Even Jesus hung around with a whore until he made it over to see his Paul. But, that's just the way the symbolism works, is that you have something that's going to supply the spiritual side of you. And, of course, this only works for those of us that are spiritual. And if you aren't spiritual, then it isn't going to work, because you have to do these works, and wherever that religion is on earth, we know through the code that it's in there too. So it's universal. It's not my idea. It was my creation. But through this code, which I teach you about, runs rampant through the world. Absolutely. And for eons and eons. And there are so many stories creeping around the world because of them. The Noah's Ark being real, and tabernacle. They're looking for the for the Ark of the Covenant, so that they could go around, kill things, and we find that we're not connected to God. That we, like the Israelites, have decided to embark on this land and not go into the promised land, which puts us all on the outside skirts of God and on the left-hand side of the world. And we learned with this code that what we're trying to do is travel. We're trying to change the world. We're trying to change our world. No matter what you do on the outside, it's on its own. I've learned a lot about that outside world. But anyways, the trouble and everything happens, brings about some kind of change in you. You have to have some kind of trouble. In hell, in the different stages of hell, I would say that the lower stages are the ones that are going to be offered some kind of salvation. But those guys that are higher up in hell, where hell doesn't really exist, but they're just wonderful little people, just eating and loving and tearing up and chewing up and beating up and, supplying all the work for all of those people down below. We become the grease in the thing. So it's where the story comes to this group of people. It's really for everyone. Because that rich person's going to come back to another life and he's going to be a lower person, or everyone gets a chance to play these games. And whenever it's all over with, we made a pact to God. We made a pact. We made a vow telling him that we'll come back at a certain time and a certain date. And that certain time and certain date is up to you. But when you find out about it, when you get an inkling, like, wow, look at this, a whole set of rules on how to make it home. And right there under our eyes or under our noses all the time in the Bible. And this is what we teach on this channel, is we teach about the spirit side of the Bible. And it's not another thing that's made up. It's what we're supposed to look at. We are meant to trod over God's word for umpteen, God knows how long. All right. But when it comes down to the other side, as soon as you get on this other side, the first things it does is breaks your legs. All right. That's the way these stories go. They shatter those legs. Those legs represent the fourth kingdom. The fourth kingdom is religion. This idea, our spiritual side of us. And it's what we stand on. And it's so important that it's in all these places all around the world, and you are made to forget this. But the way it all works is like when Jesus is killed, and remember, Jesus would be the center. He's the rock. He's right here. He builds his home on stone, and the two thieves beside him become his emotional side of him and his physical side. So what happens is that these two beasts, or these two thieves, get their legs broken, this shattered. The first thing you lose is religion, because it's religion that keeps you dead. So when you die, those legs have got to be broken. They're the first things gone, because you're now able to see past the letter into the spirit side of the Bible, and you're able to understand what it says. And when you read the things like the sowing of the seeds, you say, well, wow. And when you start knowing what the churches are, you say, oh my goodness. And it's just been one wonderful discovery after another, to think that, we're meant to come down here. We're meant to have hell. This is the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to hate each other. We're pitted against brothers and sisters, We're told that we've killed off our brother, we're fighting against things. We put the lady down. We don't even let the woman show, we hide her, talk her down, make her speak only when she's spoken to. So we treat the really beautiful aspects of God like shit. And that's our trespasses. This is how God gets the skinny on us, you know. He's already above us, you know. And it shows us through our own beliefs and our own doings. This is where we find out. He who has not sinned can cast the first stone, right? Remember all these motherfuckers, they're not connected to God, but they are sinners, and by their own, by their own judgments, by judging themselves, by their own actions, one by one, they all left that area, right? You know, the joke would be that his mother Mary threw the rock and hit her right in the head, you know, and he'd say, "Mother," you know, but that's how the joke goes. But the way it works is that you couldn't find any accusers, and that's what happens. This idea that when you go to the other side, it goes against those things that are against you. And so we spend all our time, it seems, at certain points of hell being either, you know, a boss of someone or being, you know, on the lower end of things, the slave. And so we're told that when we're done with all of that, then good things happen. You become, well, I'll put you, now there's these people are going to be slaves to you, the outside. I'm not looking forward to having any slaves, but the idea that maybe the outside world loosens up some on you, you know, because you don't have the gnashing of the teeth and all of that you used to have. So it's a positive thing to come over on this other side. It's closer to God. It's closer to God because you learn about him, you know about him, and you are part of him. You help bring him alive. And it's not just to him, you help bring them alive, and they bring you alive. And so you go from spiritual emptiness and some kind of a dilapidated brain. What would we call that? We call it some kind of grievous head wound. That's because we're missing something, you know. And without that, we go crazy, living in this fantasy world of ours, of Maya. You know, I was just noticing how much I fall back into the past, and I look at all these old shows and old movies and stuff like that, how much a part of them I like to just drift away and go away. But this is it. That's all we have. So we're products of our thoughts and imaginations and following shadows and stuff like that. It's just amazing what we're done to do. And I'm in the understanding more about this idea of there being another life out there, one that can only do certain things, and that through us we're able to do things. We're actually able to contemplate and bring something to life, you know. That makes us gods, all right? And that's what we call the gods, you know. And they call us lords. We do all those things. You got to learn to be able to put up with that kind of shit. No one's calling me Lord. No one's calling me God. No one's calling me Jesus. But all we have to do is to know how to teach and be like Jesus. You know, we teach how to open people's eyes by teaching them how to read the Bible correctly. We bring people alive by them noticing in the Bible the formula for bringing yourself alive. It's like reading the text off of the pyramids and the, you know, those the Book of the Dead. All those, that's this idea of coming over on this other side, and those are real life things that happen to us that go when we go under, you know. This idea is they're written for those people through a spiritual eye, and everyone else is doing things from the outside. Everyone, everybody, everyone. They've got Mecca. Look at Mecca. That's one giant kundalini on the outside surface of the earth. We already have those old churches that were set up on real live ground, you know, even with, you know, the seed of Satan and everything, you know, with Pergamos, they have all that. Oh, look, they got the Temple Mount. You know, these are things that we inherited, and these are on the ground. You know, this is what people do. You know, there's things of Zeus. There's all of these past religions which had the code in them, are all there and standing. People worship them. People brought them alive. Here we got the Jewish people do it everything on the outside. They even wear their little box on their head, everything on the outside. They got a armor, or what do you call it? Their little funky little shirts that they wear, with all the little businesses on them. All of those things are symbolic references to energies that are inside of us. And of course, we know that, but everyone on the outside, monkey see, monkey do. Everyone is doing everything from the outside. And even Jesus, when it came down to it, all of that business before he died was an outside view of an inside electrical circuit. But he was going from the outside. Even Peter, when Peter said, when Jesus was taken down the road, Simon Peter cut the guy's ear off. He was the only one of the guys that carried a sword. That's symbolic. When you want to open up the pineal gland, this splits you in half, and it cleaves you because you're cleaving to the lower mind. So this idea is this is to cut you in half, and this releases the brother. All right, and so they all run up to the gate. And the gate's closed, and some woman had to come by because his friend who knew the people went in, which would be the spiritual side. But he's the physical side. So he's not allowed in past this gate, past 6. It's not allowed. And this is an outside situation, not an inside. So a woman has to come through. A woman who's keeping the gate opens the gate and lets Peter in. And they sit there by a fire and warm themselves up. This is an outside. This is an outside view of what goes on the inside, because when you get past that gate, that's the day of the Lord, right? But we're getting Jesus in there being smacked on and slapped about, and smited. It gets boinked, that's what's going on inside, where the king is at. And they're crunching him on a little thing on his head, the thorns. That's our bodies, and the pain and the sorrow. And, of course, he's going to get, lashings and stuff like that on the kundalini down his back. This is where he gets his scourging. This is his, and then he winds up being killed, all together between the two thieves. It's just so spiritually crazy, but it's an outside way of doing things. And so when he dies, the veil is open, just like that. The camp curtains are split wide open. That's so that you can see everything. What is revealed, what is not seen is now seen, is revealed through this death that we do. But this is the bridegroom. This is the bridal area, because this is where he's now coming home. He's finished. That's why he says he's finished. We have finished our works. Remember, there's no getting over here unless you get your works done first. That's cleaning house, so you got to clean house before you go out and play. And play you do, because you become children. We become kids. I feel like a kid. I feel like a child, but my body still feels pretty old. I'm trying to get my mind to catch up. I hope my body can catch up with my mind, or whatever it is. I think it's regression. No, it's done. But anyways, what we get out of this whole thing is a new mind, the new heaven and earth opened up, because they come together. They roll together like 2 scrolls. All right. It's so beautiful, and I could just go on for days talking like this, bringing all these wonderful stories into just plain old conversation, and what it means, But listen, God is a husbandman, and Jesus is divine. All right, we are the husbandman. Is a gardener, somebody who's out tilling the soil. This is what the job is. Noah was brought into life to ease this burden from the works of their hands of toiling in the earth. That's when Moses, when Noah comes about, he's representing the killing of the self, the cleaning of the earth, to purge the earth of all its evil, and and using the Kundalini system in order to do this. And it's just he and his family that get saved. The rest of the earth gets destroyed, and it's the same way when the coming of man. It's going to be just the same way as it was. But he's only coming for one person at a time, or one family. That's one whole family. And remember, anytime you bring a stranger into your life, like religion, the strange woman, the whore, only shit's going to happen. But I'm going to tell you, we're meant to go through this, because the whole idea is that third or that fourth kingdom in number four, the fourth kingdom, the legs that are made of iron and the feet with mixed iron and clay. That's our spiritual side of us. That's the east. That's where we want to go. That's the right side. We're going to toss our nets over to the right side of the boat. All right. You're going to yank up 153 fish, so that's a 9, with a right-handed reference. Oh my God. Anyways, I just thought I would come on and chat with you, and hopefully you got something out of this, But this is the way people should talk nowadays, We would know all about these dark sayings. We could be, oh yeah, that's so cool, I love that. Anyways, and I love you guys. Oh, the day has started. All right, and I love you guys. I hope y'all are well. I'll chat with you soon. All right.